Well, my initial reaction was, I don't know about this. This could be, I thought the odds were, and I play the odds a lot um, when I assess the future. I thought the odds were that it was not going to be a great musical move for me. And so both they and I didn't know what it would bring. And so we ended up agreeing to do 4 shows, short, like a week space, including rehearsals and everything. So I went and met the guys and was really surprised at how, as soon as we started playing, Jon Lord, I was improvising. We were just jamming. In fact, that's the first thing we did, was just start to jam. Jon Lord could hear what I was playing and add to it, and that really surprised me and pleased me. And the other guys were just really confident and relaxed, and the time was no problem. It was just like sitting in a big, easy chair. It was just the easiest thing in the world to just play with them. Then, my only fear then became the singer. Well, he's a rock and roll singer. This could be like, just some medieval torture thing. But instead, we went on stage. I think a day after I met them, I was on stage in this huge Coliseum. And Ian puts his arm around me and said, "Come on up to the stage," because I was hanging back, just kind of like, "I'll be in the shadows here if you need me," And so he just says, "Come on up," Basically, what he's telling me is he wants to be part of the band instead of have the band be behind him. And I just love that approach. And I love Ian's humor, his double entendre lyrics, everything that he comes up with. I mean, I find some great amusement with. And Roger was the first guy I met. And Roger's the total intelligent, super eclectic listener. He was the guy, I think, that suggested to the band that they look into getting somebody really different from Richie, meaning me. And I came to the conclusion that they were all in the band. They were all picked to be in the band because they were good. They were really good. The band's been through a lot of different versions over the years. And here we were. 4 out of 5 of them were from the Smoke on the Water days, but they kept being in the band because they were really right for it. To my surprise, it was working out really well. And I was luckily in a position where I didn't have to do anything. I was making a living doing my own thing. And, as much as I wanted to, or I could do solo shows or go back to, doing classical guitar gigs or whatever. There was a lot of possibilities. But suddenly this just seemed like actually a great opportunity to have fun playing. And that's something that I sort of, I haven't been having as much of sometimes. When I do these classical guitar gigs, it's like such an intense thing. The sound's perfect. Any breath that's wrong, is obvious to the whole seated theater full of people. And I don't know, it's really joyful and relaxing and fun to play with Deep Purple. Something I've always wanted to do. Playing with Jon Lord makes me, it's a challenge. It's great because one of the things we do every night is Jon will just start playing chords. And it's before one of several tunes that we'll have this. He'll start playing chords, and at some point, there's no telling exactly when. I'm just supposed to know and feel when I should come in. And then I do. And as I start playing a melody, he plays different chords according to what he thinks I'm going to hit next. And I never know if it's going to be a relative chord or if it's going to be a key change chord. And so we both really have to use mental telepathy and use our ears. Because the instant he hits that chord, I've got to play a note that fits. And not only note that fits, but continue it with the melody. It's that kind of thing. I love doing that. It's just, it's sort of the musician equivalent of living on the edge. You know, you're really taking a chance. You know, it sounds like something that's planned out to the people in the audience, which is great. I don't really care if they think it's planned out or not, but just the fact that we're doing it and it's spontaneous and it's really kind of sticking your neck out. I just love that. And Jon is so good at that. He can tell. Even sometimes I can even imply where I'm going with the melody, and he'll get it. Very few keyboard players I've ever played with in the jazz arena can think that far ahead. He's really, really special talent. Well, his organ sound, it's something I always loved about Deep Purple. Just heavy B3, and a lot of those recordings he did with playing through a guitar amp, of course, really appealed to me because it's like power chords or something. So I use a little bit different amp as a result of that. That's why I use the 5150. It seems to have a better mix with his organ than the amps that I use with Steve Morse Band or Dregs, which are regular Marshalls. And I don't always feel a need to cut through the organ. I like to blend with the organ a lot. But I've never been out front for one of our shows, so I can't say exactly how it is. I know how it is in the studio when we play live and we listen back, because we try to have sounds that are compatible, but let him have a little bit more mid-range with the organ and me have a little bit more of a spread, which I normally don't do. But with Deep Purple, I have more low and high than I normally would. Sometimes we do, some fast riffs. We do several songs in G, a lot of songs in G. One of that's Mary Long, and also in G, this one. Speaking is just straight up. Trying to think some other stuff that I can do on this guitar. One of the ones that is I love to play like this. This is an interesting anecdote. I don't know if it's funny. It wasn't funny to me at the time, but it gets funnier as time goes on. We were playing in Kiev, Ukraine, part of the former USSR, and we were getting there on a series of airliners. One was an old chartered Aeroflot, a jet, looked kind of like a 727. And the crew and the equipment were all supposed to go in there. Well, to start with, the baggage door of the plane was not big enough to put the equipment in with the cases. So they started taking, we were coming from maybe Moscow the day before. So in Moscow, they're taking the cases apart and just, cases that would have little delays and pedals and cords and stuff, now they're just cords being thrown into this airliner, like in seats and stuff. Delays, amps, guitars, just stuff without cases, being just totally loaded into this ancient, like put out of service because it's not good enough to keep in service airliner. Then the crew saw the plane, and almost every one of them said, "No, I'm not getting in that thing," because there was some of the tires, you could see the cord on them, and they were just convinced that they were gonna die if they got on this thing. And they said, "Sorry, this is below standard." Meanwhile, we'd already gone on another plane, and we were in Kiev, and the crew ended up not going on the plane. The plane goes to Kiev. A bunch of Ukrainians unload it, bring it to the gig. The gig is an outdoor stadium, okay? It was like late summer, and it's just a cold front that's just gone through, and it's gotten really cold and windy. The stage is about 200 feet across, and I just got suddenly picked up from the hotel room. "You need to come down to the gig right away." "Why? What's wrong?" I get there. None of my crew is there. All my equipment is scattered in pieces across a 200-foot stage along with everything else. There's people milling around. No one speaks English. I have a T-shirt on and a thin jacket, and it's starting to snow. There's nobody to set up my stuff. There's no power. I have 110 volt stuff. They have 240 volt. There's no transformers. There's nothing. And people the doors are opening. There's people coming in and say, people in broken English saying, "Steve, why are you setting up your equipment?" And I'm going, "I don't know." But since the crew didn't get on the plane and they just blew it off, they said, "There's no way." So we did the gig anyway, and I had to figure out a way to hook everything up. Well, it took me until 5 minutes before the show to get enough adapters and cords and to find all the stuff, just to put it together. Because I have a bunch of pedals and a rack and 6 cabinets, and I was like, "Oh, give me it!" with this, and just literally setting it up. And then 5 minutes before the show, I'm totally, completely frozen, and we're supposed to play. And there's movie cameras all around, strategically, like they're going to make bootleg things of this or whatever. And I'm just going, God, this just couldn't be any worse. I couldn't even move my fingers; they were just so frozen. So. One of the crew that did come was there with, it went and got some hot water in a metal thing, and I just put my hands around the hot water, and it started to burn my fingers, but I couldn't feel it. So when the pain arrived, getting through the frozen fingers, I said, "Ah!" And then I put a towel around it and then kept doing this, trying to warm it up for now I had 2 minutes left. Hadn't touched my guitar. My fingers are just starting to get unthawed. And then this guy in Ukrainian starts announcing the band. It was just, welcome to hell. It wasn't funny at the time, but now it seems funnier.